And you still talk over it, so it's fine. Ready to roll? All right. Good afternoon. We are here with Marco Mastarocco.
Yeah,
I've been practicing rolling the R's. Very Italian, very authentic here. Marco is the proud owner of Athletics Human and Sports Performance. Now, Marco, we started talking about 3.5 years ago.
Yep.
A point of note, before you were a small business owner, you had a full head of hair. Tell me about the journey that has been.
Yeah, well, that obviously is a joke, but yeah, beauty of business ownership. We got in touch, I remember, because of our mutual friends and the expertise that you had obviously in the providing for good gym equipment. And we started discussing about my ideas. I remember still the conversation with my Excel and the spreadsheet and the business plan, and we made it happen.
Yeah.
It's great.
So you got open, I think from memory, because you jogged my memory before, it was in June 2021.
Towards the end of June 2021.
So it was just coming out of that COVID sort of period.
Yeah, beautiful timing.
Talk to me about the business. Tell me, what is Athletics about? Who do you cater to, and how's the business sort of evolved over the last 3 years?
So Athletics was born with the vision of bridging the high performance training for general population. So it is all the private strength and conditioning. We bring all the goods that come with this sort of approach to the training. It is not CrossFit, it is not bodybuilding, obviously. It is catered for athletic development, and we try and explain and educate people of different backgrounds how to improve their general well-being. Obviously, the pinnacle of this is having the athletes that come into our gym. Yep. So we focus also the choice of the equipment based on what we needed to do. So the vision obviously dictated the sort of choices in the layout, the way it would have to be spaced. Within 12 months we started finally to see the light, and the expertise and legitimacy of what we're doing started paying off. Now we are proudly leading, I would say, the private strength and conditioning in Brisbane. We've got athletes that come from professional background here for either rehab, improving the hip mobility, for instance, or just during the off season. They come from like rugby league, NRL, AFL, cricket, different other sports, track and field, a lot of them. And but we also expanded into youth when it comes to like regular day-to-day training to explain and teach them how to move to the youth athletes. So we pretty much help them across the board. So now we've got 4 mainstream activities that are happening, which is again the athletes. We got our general pop with adults with different variety of classes, and the youth and the rehab, where we have like a fantastic trio of physios. They're all high-level guys from AIS. The one is a head physio for the Reds, another head physio for the Brisbane Roar female team, and so we provide a full rehab from like acute phase till return to performance. So it is quite a spread in terms of activities, but thanks to obviously the stuff that I have around it, surrounding me, we are able to cater for all of these different activities. So everybody who works here comes with a bit of a good amount of education. At a minimum, they have a degree in sports science. They're all accredited with the ASCA, which is the Strength and Conditioning Association. Some people have a master. Everyone who coaches here has at least a degree.
Yeah, brilliant. And so you talked quite a bit about athletes and performance and recovery, but you also work with general public. So talk to us a little bit about that. What do you do with general public, and what in some instances is the path for those?
So
those
the idea
people?
is to teach everybody to train like an athlete, and on this point, there's a lot of people that have this fear that training like an athlete means being trained too hard every day like crazy, whereas it's more like a balancing act. We teach them a good systemized approach with work and recovery, spacing out heavy, intense activities with a bit lower loading or less intense sort of activity-based stuff, the timetable is spread with this specific thing in mind. So we teach foundation of weightlifting, we teach them, we have Pilates classes run by our physios, mobility, conditioning-based classes, so it's a bit of a variety of things that we try and tick all the boxes.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, Marco, you and I, we're both fairly youthful guys, but
Yeah,
you know,
sort of.
we're no longer 18 anymore.
No.
Tell me a little bit though, how did you get to be here? What was some of your background? Possibly, you know, we might touch on who you used to do training for and some of the background that led you to deciding to do your own facility.
My personal sport background or my...
Brilliant.
Well, I used to do a lot of kickboxing and Muay Thai in my younger age, let's say, in my days, and then I moved into the strength and conditioning environment, and I really love the idea of spacing out and being able to help all of these different sports rather than focusing just on one. I guess that helped me, the combat sports helped me having a really good tunnel vision when it's needed. I'm sure you got the same feeling coming from your army background, if I remember well.
Very good.
So that helps a lot with the, you know, getting through the stages of business. I think I was just having a conversation with somebody else the other day saying the running your own business is a little bit like going through the Navy SEAL training. You got a lot of people they start, and then as the pressure mounts up, a lot of people start falling apart, and some people, they are lucky enough to, you know, I guess have the bit of luck, a bit of right attributes, and then they stay in the game. So yeah. And that's.
So you were overseas prior to coming here. Where were you based? And
so I've been moving a lot. So I came to Australia many years ago with not English, 2005, and then moved back to Europe. Lived in London for 7 years with a brief interaction in Ibiza in Spain, managing another gym there, and then back in Australia, Sydney, and now Brisbane since 2016, where I was contracting for Queensland Bulls and Cricket Australia, and then I started my own little business working in private schools.
Yep.
Which led me to the idea of, you know, having a good setup for also the youth population, because there is a lot of gap in the market in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, coming from overseas and seeing, you know, some of the different markets, I mean, I've travelled fairly extensively into different markets in the US with strength and conditioning. I feel like in Australia we're kind of at an infancy level in some ways compared to what overseas is. How do you see that progressing in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think Australia is quite ahead compared to Europe. Potentially London may be roughly the same level, but it's also different demographic. I noticed like brands like there's a brand called Gym Box many years ago when I was in London, who's like very funky sort of classes that would never work here in Australia. So it's a different type of market. But in terms of like fitness or strength and conditioning, USA is always the leading part. I don't think we come too far apart. I mean, from the US, we're probably a few years behind.
Yep.
But we definitely are leading the way when it comes to Europe. So it's like Europe looks at Australia, Australia looks at the US.
Wonderful.
That's my personal perception.
Fantastic. And I suppose circling that back to this facility and our partnership, you know, it's been sort of over 3 years, and predominantly facility has the Talk fitness equipment in there.
Yep.
Can you kind of touch on some of the reasons why Talk was a good choice for you and why we continue this partnership?
Yeah, well, look, first of all, obviously you gave me a really good rundown of the sort of quality of the material, and after having a look at the other different brands and having had some cooperation, as you said, with Italian-based brands in the fitness industry, I just appreciated the quality of the product, and it was a really good, cost-effective solution for me. It was something that I think we all felt really comfortable investing in, and thanks also to your suggestion, we've been investing wisely in the equipment, so we haven't gone full on from the start. As you remember, we only started with like 3 squat racks, benches and a few dumbbells, and then we started building one piece at a time.
Yeah, look, it is something I do commonly talk to people about in the early phases is if you think you're going to need 6 or 8 squat racks, that's great, but what do you need to start and progress with? And, you know, it's been really rewarding over the last few years to come back to see the grand opening and then to come back for the birthday party and just to see the evolution of the club as we go on. You know, from my side, it's particularly rewarding, but you know, from your side, hopefully, hopefully the hairs aren't grey.
I can finally sleep at night. You know, first 12 months were obviously super tough, but yeah, it's, you know, like everything, there is nothing particularly good that comes from easy times. It's always you need to go through tough times to appreciate the reward. So
no, brilliant. Well, Marco, let's have a bit of a tour around the facility. Let's talk about, you know, some of the equipment and how you use it and why it's beneficial. So
sure,
brilliant.
Let's do that. Sorry, I'm a bit serious, but that's
No, it's good. Like I was kind of thinking this.
Can you understand
this is kind
English?
of a podcast.
Is that okay?
Yeah. As we were going through it, I'm like,